Don't lose your way. Your mind, we have to be as one.
Hey, what's going on YouTube? Or Storm here, coming at you guys with another deck profile. Today we're showing you guys my updated DDD list. Obviously the structure isn't too far away. However, since I did a whole video talking about, DDD cards and like how to play the deck properly, I figured I'd go ahead and upload a deck profile for you guys so you guys can see kind of how I run the deck right now. So first off, we have 3 copies of DD Savant Kepler. Pretty much one of the cards you want to see your turn 1 if you don't see gate. Whenever it's normal special summon, it has an effect that allows you to either A, bounce a DD card from your hand. Never really comes up anymore. It used to be relevant when we had Galley and these were the main scales and you did Pendulum Summon, but now it's not really relevant. The main effect you care about is you can add 1 Dark Contract from your deck to your hand. Really important card. A lot of your combos revolve around this card, so I would ever really play less than 3. And then same thing for the next card, which is 3 copies of DDD, Oblivion King Abyss Ragnarok. It has both its monster and Pendulum effect allow you to special summon more. The Pendulum effect works sort of like Genghis. Whenever you special summon a DD monster, you can special summon another one from your graveyard, but opponent's damage you take is halved, and also you take 1,000 damage. So really good card. But the monster effect is a little different. It can only summon DDD monsters, so like your fusion monsters and your anything others you might be names you might be playing that are DDD monsters. But the main thing is all the effect that comes up sometimes is that you contribute a monster you control to banish an opponent's monster. It does targets. It's really good though. I would never play less than 3. It's probably the best pound for pound card in the archetype in my opinion. Then we have 3 copies of DD Savant Thomas. Thomas is actually pretty much helped the archetype quite a bit. It allows you to make rank 8 plays because whenever its Pendulum effect is really good because it allows you to re-add your Keplers from the extra deck. So it hits the extra deck quite a bit, so you don't have to play cards like Lilith to get it back. But the main effect you care about is the fact that it allows you to pop a DD card in your Pendulum zone to special summon a level 8 DD monster from your deck. So it allows you, it's basically a 2-card rank 8, and your opponent does take half damage, but you don't really care because it doesn't matter because you're going to end up making a rank 8 that's going to put a lot of pressure on them. If you are playing Pod Desires and not playing Trade-In, you can definitely bump this down to 2 or even 1, but I really think it's a staple in the deck currently. Then, of course, for the slimes, we have 3 copies of Swirl and 3 Necro Slime. Swirl Slime is really good because obviously it's a poly from hand, and you can special summon Ragnarok or any other DD monster from your hand. Really important card. Necro Slime, I actually find that in Histing, I search this a lot of where I foul when I have this in hand, so it works really well. It's probably the first card I usually chuck off of Allure Darkness, so these cards work really well together. I'd highly recommend running 3 of each, pretty much a staple. Then the last DD monster is 1 copy of DDD Rebel King Leonidas. Now, I know a lot of people aren't a big fan of this card. I'm not either, but that's one of the reasons it's in here at 1. The main thing about this, as opposed to cards like Nicola, is that I don't think rank 6s really do a lot for this deck. Now, Beatrice is Beatrice. She can dump your tuners, but especially post structure, you don't really need Beatrice. The best thing you're going to do if you go into a Beatrice is summon a Synchro alongside it, which isn't always the greatest thing in every situation, but pre-structure you can kind of have the room for her, I guess. The main thing is I prefer this card over other cards that you could be playing because I just feel like it fits with the deck better. It works well with your tuners to make Synchro plays, so yeah. So only 1 though, because in post-structure definitely will not be in here. Now for some of the outside archetype cards, we have the 2 copies of Gamma Seal. This kind of rounds out our trade-in targets at 8. Trade-in is a card that if you do run in this deck, I cannot stress this enough, you must run 8 targets for it because it will clog up your hand. I cannot stress this enough. So why the Gamma Seals are in here. Obviously, Gamma Seals still one of the best removal cards in the game, being able to just get any annoying monster off the field. If you don't have if you can't get a hold of Gamma Seals, I highly recommend Gandarla. I wouldn't play any of the other Kaijus. I wouldn't play the level 7 one because that's a dark. Because while yes, you can chuck it with Allure Darkness, but the problem with it is that it's a level well, it's level 7 first off, but the second problem is it's 2800, so Oracle can't beat over it. So if you do run another kaiju over this, feel free to run Gandharla over this. But I find Gamecill is the best one, of course, because it's attack points. Then for the tuners, I run the one Glow Up Bulb and the one Jet Synchron. You could theoretically just run Bulb, but I kind of like having both here. It helps a lot of your synchro plays with the deck. It helps quite a bit. But I kind of like having both. They are accessible via Wear of Thou, and you can send them in the graveyard with like Foolish Burial, Beatrice, etc. So I kind of like them there. And then 2 copies of Maxi for our last monsters. Maxi is a card I like in this deck a lot. I have a love-hate relationship with it because I sometimes see it in my opening hand when I go first and realize I can't really do anything with it. But it does help going second, which because you're not always going to win the die roll. So Maxi is probably a main deck staple at this point, to be honest. Now for the spells, I play 3 Dark Contracts with the Gate. Obviously, you play 3. This is your Searcher. So you want to see it your opening hand, so you can kind of get all your pieces. Like all the DDD contracts, take 1,000 every standby phase. The 2 copies of Swamp King. The main reason I have 2 in here is because I play the fusion that the Kaiser Wave Oblivion Ragnarok that requires 2 DDD monsters, and the second one does come up on occasion if my opponent say like plays something that managed to get rid of the first one. I've always kind of liked 2. You definitely don't need 3. You can get away with 1 if you really want to, but I just like 2. And for the draw power, 3 copies of Allure of Darkness. Pre-structure, its card is good, but I'm honestly considering possibly bumping it down simply because like I end up banishing pieces I want to, but personally I just like having 3 and I definitely recommend 3 post-structure. Next up, we have the 1 copy of Upstart Goblin, 39 card deck. I don't need to talk too much about this. It fits in this deck right. Then the 2 copies of Trade-In. This is mainly here because we do have all the level 8s, and I don't have Pot of Desires. You can comfortably kind of move cards around and play Pot of Desires in here. It fits DDDs really well. So yeah, 2 Trade-Ins. Then the 2 copies of Where Arf though. This card actually, I was surprised how good it is pre-structure because I obviously don't have Lamia yet, but it's not terrible because the main thing is I find I have Slime a lot in hand. If I have like a hand with like say Kepler, Swirl Slime, and this, I can actually search Necro Slime, so I have a fusion material in hand, and I don't have to use a card like say Ragnarok. It helps a lot. It also can search your tuners. You do take 2,000 if it's not during the end phase, it's not normal summon. But the important thing to remember is the way it's worded. If you have Arc when you do go to your end phase, you will gain the life instead of taking it. So really important to know that. Remember some of the 1-ofs. The 1 for 1 for searching our Kepler. Don't think too much about that. 1 Foolish Burial, exactly, 1 Stuff Engrave. Foolish Burial is a staple in here. The 1 Regeki, this deck sometimes has trouble dealing with like monsters like Vanity's Fiend, etc. So yeah. Then for the traps, I play 2 in the form of Vanity's Emptiness and Dark Contract Witch. Witch is here, always been here, is 1 of in most DDD builds, and I find it's good at 1. Sometimes it does help you to power over opponent's monsters on their turn. You can flip it during the damage steps. It's important to remember. Emptiness is emptiness. Even pre-structure is pretty good, but post-structure obviously gets a lot better. Now, before we get to the extras, as far as siding, there's a couple cards I've got in mind for the side. I know cards like, for example, my normal side deck staples are cards like Book of Eclipse, cards like Typhoon. Obviously, but I'll have to have a more in-depth video later, I think, on siding for this deck because I have some ideas, but I need to actually do some testing and work them out. Now for the extra, we have the 3 copies of DDD Flame King Genghis. Obviously, we got this in the Megatins. Absolutely amazing card. We've been waiting for it for ages. Basically, it has a Wolfbark style effect. Whenever a DDD monster is special summoned, except during damage step, you can special summon another DDD monster from your graveyard. Really good card. And it has another effect that when it's sent to the graveyard by battle or an opponent's card effect, you can add 1 DDD. You can add 1 Dark Contract from your graveyard to your hand. It's one of the reasons why a lot of DDD players only play like 1 Swamp King and like 1 Witch. You can play a very small count of contracts because of this. I run 3 because honestly I have the space. Pro structure, I definitely would be bumping it down to 2. And I do play Beatrice, so it kind of fits at 3. Then we have the 2 copies of DDD Oracle King D-Arc. Obviously, we do have Genghis now. This isn't the days of D-Arc Turbo, so we only play 2. Post structure, you can get away with 1, but I like 2 because there sometimes comes up. All she really does is she reverses your burn damage. So every time you would take damage from Dark Contract while she's out, you gain the life points instead. A neat little interaction I've found is like playing against something like Red Eye's Flare Metal Dragon. You make this, instead of taking the damage, you actually gain it instead. It's kind of a cute interaction. Then we have the big guy, the DDD Wave Oblivion King Kaiser Caesar Ragnarok. Basically what this guy does is he's sort of like a Fright for Bear on steroids. Basically, when an attack is declared involving this card, and your opponent, keep in mind the way this is worded, your opponent has to control multiple monsters. You can return one DD or Dark Contract card you control to your hand, take control of that, equip that target to this card, and it gains attack equal to all of its equips. So important thing to remember is that the way it's worded, you can't if you're attacking with this, your opponent will have to have multiple monsters out. So, but the main thing is this will work really well against ABCs because this will actually gain all the effects of the Union monsters that are equipped to this, and it will prevent them from making Dragon Buster again, which is really, really good. I've always liked the card. It's kind of like a one of in most extra decks anyways, so yeah. Then for the synchros, we have the 1 formula synchron, a staple in my opinion. Drawing cards is always good. The main thing is it gets your Kepler off the field. I cannot stress that enough. Is you want to make sure your Kepler does not sit on the board more than by the time you end your turn, unless you want to take a lot of damage. Then we have the 1 copy of Odd Eyes Meteor Burst Dragon. This combo is it's basically here for Ragnarok. You can summon this, then special summon the Ragnarok from your Pendulum Zone, and then activate its effect. It comes up a lot. If you want to run some level 7, Black Rose Moonlight is very popular because you can actually bounce Gamma Seal with it, which is really nice. Or Clearwing Synchro Dragon is also an option. And then for the 8s, we have the 1 Cyframe Lord Omega. Omega, I know a lot of people don't have this card because it's expensive, and there really isn't a replacement for what this card does for the deck. In my opinion, it's like always been a staple. But definitely I like this card a lot. Other level 8s you could run are cards like Scarlight is actually, while it's not played on a lot of the OCG lists, you can play it. You can also play Trishula as well. The 1 copy of Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon does come up on occasion. You do have those plays where you have Meteor Burst and you have access to another tuner engrave. I feel like if you can make this, you run it. VXC is the 1 Beatrice. This card is, I've caused a lot of people this seems to be the card in the extra deck for DDDs that causes the most divide in the community. My theory on Beatrice, at least now, is that she's not bad, but honestly, like in hand play testing, she rarely comes up if ever, and she feels like kind of a card that seems subpar in the fact that I can't really do a lot after putting her on the board. Don't get me wrong, she's a great card, but for this deck, I'm not really sure she fits. But we have the room, so I feel like, why not? Then for some of the rank 8s, we have the Galaxy Eyes combo. Basically, Galaxy Eyes Cypher Dragon Full Armor. If you don't know how this combo works, basically, say your opponent has, insert XYZ monster here. Well, you summon Cypher Dragon, then activate its effect to take a monster, an XC monster. That monster becomes Galaxy Eyes Cypher Dragon, but instead of, if you stack this on top of it, you can then, they won't get the monster back, and then you can detach that monster from this card to pop it. So it's really decent combo. I mean, you don't need them in here. If you do want to run, there's plenty of other cards. You could run Scarlight and Trishula, as I mentioned earlier. You could also run rank 8s like Felgrand and Lancelot. It's really up to you, or maybe even Zombie Stein, but yeah, these are kind of like, I like having them in here. Then we have of course, it's not a DD deck without these 2 cards, number 38, Hope Harbinger, and DD and Kali Yuga. Harbinger is obviously, we all know how powerful this card is. Being able to negate a spell effect, and then on top of that, attaching itself as material, is always going to be nice. And that the attack redirection effect is really important because it allows you to keep your Keplers from being smashed by cards like Orichalc and the cards that do a lot of damage. Kali Yuga is obviously a type of card that can end games on its own. Being able to just heavy storm the entire board, especially with decks like Pendulums, especially if you've already, you've played around their field and they might have a Pendulum Scale in hand to just bring it all back. Well, Kali can be like, no, and the fact that it turns everything off too means they won't be able to basically, it allows you to get around a lot of established boards. So let me know down in the comment section below what you guys think of this deck profile. Did you like it? What changes would you guys make? Let me know. As always, guys, thank you guys for watching. So, Storm signing out.